Let's get back to the legal beagle. The things that some people can't handle, but we getting it right here on the Black community because we on it. I'm just being honest. We just have to. And the people who want to structurize this broken ass system correctly, because America is broken. When you look at this case, you can't say that it ain't broken. All right, so we're going to explore how the defense plans to argue that skipping this evidence constitute as a structural error. Okay, now that is the argument. Okay, so with this say on appeal, the defense will argue that the total exclusion of Austin Metcalf's violent background and the use of off-the-record shadow dockets did not help result in a minor mistrial. This is what the prosecution is going to try to do. Now, in criminal law, the structural error is profoundly under the constitutional violation that fundamentally structures the frameworks of trials. This is what we highlight. Unlike the standard trial error, such as judge admitting bad piece of evidence, a structural error is considered so deeply damaging to due process that it defiles analysis by a harmless error. It's not a harmless error, and that's why I said a lot of this that happened, he should have just got a new trial. That's why I said Judge Chittum maybe been part of the good old boy system. That's why I told you guys, look into Judge Chittum, see what's up with him, if you got any connections. But again, they don't even have to know each other. They good old boys. They part of the bar association. It's a Trump world. You make the wrong decision, you make you lose your position. Chittum, I'm giving you some excuses, but baby, you knew what you was going to do because the structural issues that happened in this case should have got everything overturned. Should have just gave him a new trial, but now we're going to get this shit overturned. He should have just got a new trial. But cool beans. So if they would have let this information come out, they would have been able to structurize the self-defense framework. That's what I said. So the defense lawyer for Karmelo literally sold him out because everything that you decided to exclude and you agreed upon with your friend is what would have helped to structurize a self-defense argument. So the defense will argue allegedly that the hidden Metcalf history of racism, weapon charge, violence, basically being hidden fractured their ability to represent the case correctly. Okay, so the self-defense framework, the argument under Texas law, a jury must assess whether the defendant had a reasonable belief that deadly force was immediately necessary. By withholding Metcalf's background, the court forces the jury to evaluate Anthony's fear in a smaller vacuum. That's what I told you. Just that section right there. So if Anthony said, fuck you, Karmelo, that's what they saw. They didn't see all the rest of what happened. They just said aggression. By the time the person snapped, that's getting accosted, we all look crazy. I know once I snap when people come after me, they were like, I learned not to because it's just like, damn, once I snap, I'll be looking like a psycho. We ain't about to do that. We're about to do it another way because they're trying to set you up. So what that goes to say, it kept the situation in a vacuum, eliminating the defense means to set up a self-defense argument. Why is it structural? The defense will assert that the jury cannot legally or logically determine if the defendant fear was reasonable because all of the background about the killer, KKK, beating up black people was not there. So if the court completely suppressed the fact that the allegations of the victim was he was aggressive and had documented history of racial violence and saying things like that day, let's go kill this MFer. And they never highlighted was he talking about Carmelo. And I think he was talking about Carmelo when he said, let me go kill this MFer, because he said it was that day. Mm? Mm? And you see this picture up here? They're not going to argue the persons, but because this was not added, it basically stopped Carmelo's defense for self-defense. Does that make sense? So if they knew his history, maybe we would have got the sentence that Carmelo really deserved, which was manslaughter. So physical abuse from the shadow docket. This is something that is going to play a major role in the structural error. The defense will tie the missing evidence directly to the fact that over dozens of critical trial strategy sessions, over a dozen critical trial strategy sessions occurred in the judge's private chambers without Carmelo being present. So we're going to get into that. I'm showing you so many reasons why this case should have been a new trial or he gets actually it overturned. But this is America. But I want you guys to understand why Carmelo should. This is a severe blot on justice. Severe. Okay? So the shadow docket, how did that create a structural error? So the argument, the 14th Amendment due process clause guarantees a defendant the right to present at any stage of the trial where there are present reasonable substantial relationships to the opportunity to defend themselves. Okay, so he wasn't able to defend himself because he wasn't included in none of the damn meetings. Like, he didn't know. They didn't talk to him. His lawyer didn't go back and talk to him about nothing. Okay? Why is it structured? The decision to suppress Metcalf's 20-page dossier was made during these unrecorded chamber sessions. The defense will argue that this completely locked the defense out of the room where it was inventory boundaries of their murder trial and being manufactured is the structural breakdown of the verse system. So basically what it's saying is that they structurized this case in a way to control the outcome. And they did it through the shadow docket, not giving the defense, because obviously the defense lawyer was there, but Carmelo and his family the right to a fair trial by being disclosed everything. Okay? So destruction of the public trial, okay, by using the shadow docket to broker a gentleman's agreement and closing the courtroom overflow, these two things is structural. The defense argued that the trial court violated the 16th Amendment right to a public trial as well. Okay? So when the judge moved critical legal arguments regarding evidence out of the open courtroom and included closed chambers conversation, like those ex parte conversations that happened in the YSL trial, I was mad at that. Gainesville didn't get in trouble with that. This is what the hell they be doing. So with that goes to say this is how there's structural errors because it was not supposed to happen. All these dozens of meetings and dinner and friends, it was supposed to be done in a pretrial. And if it was going to continue on for a few days that they doing a pretrial motion and they got to go, it was just going to be days that they was going to present what they was going to do, eliminate, and the judge is supposed to say on record what cannot come in, what could come in. That's how a real trial is supposed to work. That's why I couldn't understand why Judge Chill didn't just say, new trial. Okay, so now let's move on. We got a lot more to go on. Let's get into how locking Carmelo out of this plays a role. So under the Texas law, criminal defense right to be physically present during the trial proceedings is absolute. requirement. Let's put Carmelo picture on here and get these people off the screen real quick as I'm breaking this down. Hold on one second. It's an absolute requirement. That's why I said don't be listening to people talking about it. It's okay. We had dinner. We're friends. No, that. No, it's a requirement for you guys to do things correctly. If I have to do things correctly as a nurse and they say, what is the procedure? I'm saying it to you too. So under the Texas law, a criminal defense right to be physically present during the trial proceeding is absolute requirement, not a suggestion. By proving that Carmelo Anthony was excluded from more than 12 off-the-record chamber meetings, his new appellate team has established a direct conflict with Texas statutory and constitutional protections. All right, so this is how this will work for us. Direct violation of the Code of Criminal Procedures, Article 2801. Go look this up, okay? It is good to be a researcher, y'all, because I ain't biased and I can tell on everybody, okay? Texas law delegates exactly how a pretrial matters must be handled. Under Texas Code Criminal Procedures, CCP Article 2801, a trial court may set a pretrial hearing to resolve critical issues like discovery, evidential omissions, and constitutional motions. The statute explicitly states the defendant must be present at the arraignment and has been present in the required during any pretrial proceeding. Any, not the 5 minutes before the trial started. Any. Okay? The violation by moving these 12 meetings entirely into the judge's private chambers and keeping them off the record, the court bypassed the statutory definition of hearing. They never really had a hearing. The defense will argue that calling these sessions informal meeting was a legal fractional use of the word. Okay? This word should not have been used. It says the mandatory statutory right to be in the room while the rules of his murder trial was being negotiated is a true violation of his constitutional rights. Okay? But Judge Chittum knew this. And it's so sad that people was like, he didn't have time because he was just picked and this, that, and the third. Well, if you don't have time to read the whole trial, then you shouldn't be the one, all the transcript, you shouldn't be making them damn decisions. They just picked him and he just got down there. I want to hear that shit. You knew. They've been put this in. It was a possibility. They picked your name out of the hat, not the day before. They probably had you lined up just in case. Why not? Why not be proactive if they had a high profile case and they were looking to remove Judge Roach? Why wouldn't, and they've been put this motion in to remove him a while ago. Why wouldn't? Why would they do the day before and just choose out of a hat and have a judge 4 or 5 hours to come? You're ineffective. It's not gonna be fair. That's how we do it. Shit. Let's move forward. I'm sorry. Y'all know this system be making me mad. I'm Haitian. I've been raised to question the system. So I want you guys to look into the procedure, Article 2801, the violation by moving these 12 meetings entirely into the judge's private chambers. It keeps them off the record again, and they kept Karmelo out of there. The breach of mandatory presence law. This is another article, CCP, Article 3303. Now, articles is like second or third level law, supporting documents, so you'll get the case law that match it, but then you got articles, and then you have judges' opinions that you could use, and it helps structureize the law, what they're supposed to do. So that's what we're talking about articles right now. Beyond pretrial rules, Texas has a sweeping mandatory presence statute for the trial itself. CCP Article 3303 states that if a felony prosecution, the defendant must be personally present at the trial and pre-trial. While the defendant can choose to waive their presence after the jury is selected, Texas court has repeatedly ruled that the waiver must be made knowingly, voluntarily, and personally by the defendant, not secretly by the lawyers. The violation in August 2026 hearing established by Anthony established by Anthony's lawyers and prosecution, Anthony never signed a waiver, nor did he state on the record that he wishes to skip these sessions. Because major trial logistics and inventory boundary line, like the gentleman agreement occurred, were actively debated in these hearings, and I think the way it was presented was altered and clouded by the prosecutor talking about damn content creators and all this other bullshit. No, YS trial was out there for the whole year. Woody was walking around here testifying, not testifying, still up at ATL with no damn bodyguard. We talking about gang gang. I don't want to hear that. So with that goes to say, this is some of the articles that support why Karmelo should have been here. So go look up Article 3303, Article 2801 to the people who gotta ask why we're doing this, because we know the law. And hit the like button. We're gonna cook. We're an hour and a half into this, and we have so much to talk about Black community, to the people who are uplifting themselves and raising their vibrations and getting knowledge. So just in case anything similar like this happens, you know this stuff. It'll ring a bell. You'll tell your lawyer, like, yo, check this out. Check this out. Because if that's what Carmelo Anthony family was on, some of this stuff would have been avoided. Because I'm going to tell you now, I fight my own cases, even though I don't do like criminal stuff. But just to let you know, I literally just forced a civil trial on somebody who scammed me, got him to testify being stupid, and he has a criminal case already pending because I got him locked up. Big ass dummy, by myself, no lawyer. So if I sound like Ben Crumbish, I'm smart like him too. Let's get it, okay? Hit the like button, okay? All right, so now, this is how, that excluding this information violates. I gave y'all some articles, the laws out there in Texas that was supposed to be followed, and that's why I say go get them. Go get them, go get them, go get them, go tell. Go report them to the Bar Association. Go report them to the Ethical Board. Make that last couple of years or whatever they work in hell. I said it. So now let's get into violation of the Texas Constitution. Y'all want to get to that too? All right. Violation of the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 10. The Texas Constitution approves or provides a subsection that basically highlights that the federal 14th Amendment supports Article 1, Section 10 of the Texas Constitution, guarantee that in all criminal prosecutions, and people who are accused shall have the right to be heard himself or by counsel or both. Now, I don't know how strong that is because Karmelo did say on record, if I go through this, they're not about to get me. Because he probably couldn't, come fast with something like I can, like check somebody when they be trying to call me out, but I got to tell the truth to call them out. But I don't know how much that would stand because he actually said that he did not want to testify. So now let's keep it moving. Defense argues in court Karmelo new trial. Let's see, I'm just showing you some more news clipping as we cook on a lot of the information I got. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to make it too boring. You know how it is. You're just like, oh. All right, let's go to the next video real quick. Thank you for being here, Miss Grace. Let me know if I'm adding any substance to this situation. That's my goal. I want to get to the next one where they're talking about his defense attorney because I want to get to his defense attorney and his perspective, talking about he thrown off and all this crazy stuff. Baby, you got played by your best friend. Let's put it.
We begin with the latest on Carmelo Anthony's appeal. Our senior crime and justice reporter, Rebecca Lopez, just came out of the Collin County courtroom where she has been there all day long following this case. What's the latest, Rebecca?
Well, Adriana, there were fireworks in the courtroom today between two former law partners about how an agreement between prosecutors and defense attorneys broke down and how that possibly had an impact on how defense attorneys applied their case here and tried their case. The two sides made a gentleman's agreement not to introduce character evidence or prior bad acts involving Austin and Hunter Metcalf or Carmelo Anthony. But Toby Shook testified that just before Anthony was expected to take the stand and claim self-defense, prosecutor Bill Wartsky said the agreement did not apply to Anthony. That meant Anthony could not be questioned about any allegation involving his former girlfriend and text messages in which she alleged he threatened to hurt her. Now,
So this is what was allegedly a misunderstanding by Mr. Shook. Because I didn't write anything down like, oh my God, he should be in trouble. Report him to the bar. Okay, we're going to get to the importance of how you report all of these people. Point blank, period. So basically, Mr. Shook said that he misunderstood about, the lines of the blurred lines of this gentleman agreement. So the defense understanding should testify that the defense team completely took it for granted that the agreement showed Anthony if he testified. They believe Anthony could take the stand to walk the jury through his self-defense claim as long as his testimony stayed focused strictly on the timeline of the physical confrontation under the tent. Shook admitted that they never explicitly asked prosecutors, does this cover Anthony if he takes the stand? Because they believe it was implied, which I said yesterday, and a lot of people know. Self-defense, you're going to understand. It's pretty normal. The prosecutor ambushed him, his friend. Howard testified that on the final day of the trial, just as Anthony was prepared to testify because he was going to testify, everybody knew that. Obviously, they do what is going to happen in the court for the day. Go look at the YSL trial. They had things lined up, like what was going to be presented, to keep things in order. So you telling me Judge Roach didn't do that? And they never knew that Karmelo was going to testify at no time of this short 3-4 day trial? And over the 20 pre-fake hearings? Stop. Howard testified that on the final day of the trial, just as Anthony was preparing to testify, prosecutors dropped the bombshell in the judge's chamber. They declared that if Anthony took the stand, the gentleman agreement was entirely null and voided, and they would unleash his full history of valid text to the media and everybody on cross-examination. This is when the scrambling happened. This is allegedly when Toby Shook said, oh, I lost hope. I can't believe this is happening. Okay, he said, I lost trust in my friend. Howard detailed a highly chaotic, heated dispute that took place behind closed doors between the legal team, and allegedly Karmelo heard it. And he was like this, Shook, you shook. You can't even handle it. You can't even handle your friend. And you think that I'm going to get on the stand? I can understand why Karmelo did not. From everything now, I was asking prior, why? Now I understand. Because if he ain't got a mouthpiece like me ready to get it back, and he's going, young kid, all this stuff, it's not going to work in his benefit. Highlighting that the whole first half of the trial was trashed because he watched his lawyer not cross-examine. Nothing come out. Imagine how Karmelo felt watching that. Like, I know these motherfuckers bullied me. I know all these women, they're lying. Imagine. That gotta be hard. Okay? So this is when Shook allegedly lost confidence in his friend. Okay? So, this is ridiculous. Usually within the court in Texas, it defines the burden of proof. It starts with self-defense, and then it, like if you're doing, you start on your side, and then it'll go on the other, like the prosecutor. Once you say you lay your stuff out, then the prosecutor got to prove that you're lying. So there's no way that they didn't know Karmelo was going to testify. Does that make sense? If you know he was doing self-defense, I didn't even know he was going to testify, because you're going to have to debunk everything that he was saying, because that's what self-defense trial usually consists of. It's a lie for me. So how Texas defines the burden of proof for self-defense? Under Texas Penal Code Chapter 9, self-defense is treated as jurisdiction defense. The burden of proof is broken down into two-step shift process. 1, the defense burden of proof, burden of production. The defense must first produce some evidence, the defense, to support the claim of self-defense. In Karmelo Anthony trial, this threshold was easy to meet, allegedly due to the testimony regarding a physical altercation, but it wasn't because everybody witnessed testimony that did not get charged with, murder, or what is it, what do they call? What do you call when you tied to murder because you was there? I'll get back to that. They knew that the witness testimony was going to be favorable to them. Okay, it was going to be favorable for the prosecutor. So at this particular time, if he were able to talk about the actual stab and everything that led to it, that would have been the defense time to lay out their proof of self-defense. They never, that's why I said this lawyer should be in trouble too, because you were supposed to lay out a fight for self-defense, and you knew from the rip you couldn't do it. Does that make sense? He knew he couldn't do it. So the second part of a self-defense trial was supposed to be then the burden of proof goes back to the prosecutor. So then the prosecutor burden, once the defense meets the initial burden and say, hey, it was self-defense, the burden shifts entirely back to the prosecutor. In the Texas Penal Code Section 2.0, the state must disprove self-defense beyond a reasonable doubt. Right. Did that happen? The doubt for me is the 8 minutes that was left. The doubt for me was a conflict in the witness testimony. The doubt for me was that they were no expert witnesses and that they used teenagers' feelings and emotions and perception to be expert witnesses. The doubt for me. What the jury was looking at, and then we're going to get into the other violation that they should be highlighting, which was the judge's directions to the jury. We almost making it through here. I thought I got a big packet for y'all. We making it. Let's go. Okay. So now, let's get into this. When a jury deliberates, the written jury charges must explicitly state that the defendant does not have to prove they acted in self-defense. This is what the judge was supposed to say. Whatever his jury directions, these are some of the things that he was supposed to say, clarify how they were supposed to think, okay? Instead, the instruction basically highlighted to the jury that, or didn't highlight to the jury that even if it was a reason of the doubt to whether the defense acted in self-defense, they must acquit the defendant if they feel that there's any inclination that this young man was fighting in self-defense because they charged him with murder. So unless the judge gave them jury instruction and say, hey, and that's what we're going to get into, the judge was supposed to say, hey, according to the information, blah, 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 I don't know the exact words, but you can find him for manslaughter if the evidence that was presented to you will highlight manslaughter or second degree. This was something that the defense actually tried to petition for the judge to do, to give the jury the option to lower the sentence and lower the charges. That's why in the last part of this, I'm going to get off the screen and I'm going to re-show y'all my first Karmelo Anthony video. It literally got 100 views, but it was comparing the Casey Allison case to what possibly will happen now. And when you see the Casey Allison case, you're going to understand why I believe he was supposed to get manslaughter in lesser years, because the Casey Allison case, it was pretty similar. With crazy text exchange, with both sides saying crazy shit about each other and balance on both sides. That is a case that I'm going to show you. Lawyer Sonia in her major comparison on why she believed that this case may be overturned because of these structural issues. Let's play this a little bit more, and we're going to continue to break down the facts here. Hit the like button. Hit the like button.
Shook says the defense based its trial strategy on that agreement, and prosecutors pulled the rug out from under them.
Part of the defensive theory is that, look, you didn't anticipate that Karmelo Anthony was going to testify because you were winning, and you were winning because we weren't asking hard questions because we were relying on the agreement in the first place. And so this is just some of the complicated things that this judge has to untangle in this motion for new trial, and will almost certainly have to be untangled on appeal.
Look, things became really tense between Shook and Bill Wurtsky. And again, these guys have known each other for a long time, and Shook got really upset and angry actually on the stand today. And right now, what they are hearing,
And he's acting like a filthy animal. So we're going to kind of talk about the two sides of what may get the conviction overturned and what will work against the conviction being overturned.
the courtroom is now Bill Wurtsky is being questioned. And yesterday, we heard the prosecutors, or the defense rather, go line by line about prior acts that Hunter and Austin Metcalf had been involved in, and about racist comments. Today, what they're hearing right now are prosecutors going line by line about Karmelo Anthony's past and some of the allegations about violence and some disciplinary actions, and also some assaults that he had in his past as well. His attorneys are seeking a new trial, and again, a judge is expected to testify or make a decision rather sometime later tonight, tomorrow. He had to have a video by Monday when the deadline for an appeal runs out. So
Not right here, because he made it on a Saturday in the middle, right after the Sabbath. I'm like, oh man, he did it. So let's get to this Austin Metcalf Foundation, Karmelo Anthony legal team react to the denial of motion for a new trial. Okay, and we're going to kind of get into what the possibilities of this being overturned or not overturned. Okay, I know I gave y'all a lot of information to think about, but it's still a lot more. Let's get it. Because this will be kind of like my last deep dive on Karmelo Anthony until a couple of months from now, okay? Because we're going to move on, keep our eyes on the Nolan Well. We're going to talk about a lot of this strange fruit that's going on out in America, where they're saying that my Black people are hanging each other. We're going to get to it. So this will actually be my last deep dive on Karmelo Anthony, unless we have any major updates. So let's just play this real quick, okay? Thank you for being here with Miss Grace.
Afternoon, a judge denied Karmelo Anthony's request for a new trial. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm Teresa Woodard. Anthony, in June, was convicted of murdering fellow Frisco ISD student Austin Metcalf. The stabbing happened in April 2025. Today's ruling came down about 3 hours ago. In a one-page document, the judge said, upon reviewing the motion, the record, the evidence, and argument, the briefs, and relevant case law, the court has determined the motion should be denied. Senior Crime and Justice reporter Rebecca Lopez has been in the courtroom following this case really from the very beginning. Rebecca, you've been talking to both sides since this decision came down. What are you hearing?
So, Teresa, this decision basically leaves Karmelo Anthony's murder conviction and 35-year sentence in place. And tonight we are hearing reaction from Anthony's attorneys and the Austin Metcalf Foundation. The judge denied Anthony's motion for a new trial after 2 days of testimony. Anthony's new attorneys argued his right to a public trial was violated because the original judge did not provide an overflow courtroom and more access for the public. They also argued an informal agreement between prosecutors and Anthony's former attorneys fell apart, affecting the decision not to have Anthony testify. The two sides had agreed to keep damaging information about both Anthony and the Metcalf twins away from the jury and focus only on what happened the day Austin was stabbed.
All right, so let's stop right here, because this is what we're going to break down what may possibly happen on appeal, okay? Let's get it, part 2 to this, okay? We over here cooking. Let's put Karmelo on the screen. I want to say thank you for being here with Miss Grace. I love doing this. Once everybody got into law and exposing trial cases, I was like, oh snap, there's more on YouTube for me to do. Because I used to be watching trial and stuff like football. Like, shit. I'm like, not guilty. I'm like, hold it 10. They're like, what is wrong with her? I'm a night nurse yelling at people. Yelling at my YouTube. All right, now I can yell at y'all on YouTube. Now, this is some of the arguments that will work in favor for overturning the conviction. 1, the judge was recused. The fact that Judge Roach was recused for administrative error and officially removed by Judge Chittum on August 19th this was a significant development. The defense will argue to the higher court that Judge Roach's public media comment endorsed the guilty verdict and the structural errors, making it seem like he had it all set up, okay? And the courtroom error bans, proving that he was fundamentally biased during the actual trial proceedings. So that's one. This will work to get it overturned. The Sixth Amendment public violation of a public trial. Judge Roach's strict restrictions on the courtroom access and his closure to the overflow room in the middle of the trial. And as correction, he did that after they chose the jury, which was ridiculous. No order, not within, just out in public. You could at least be like, hey, we're changing some stuff up because it's getting kind of crazy. Somebody got threatened and somebody arrested. Like, he couldn't even do that. He didn't give a damn. He was just doing what he wanted to do. So this constitutes for Sixth Amendment public trial violation, complete closure of the public space during the trial without overwhelming justification. Now, this is supposed to put on record, are highly scrutinized by higher courts and can occasionally result in an automatic reversal. So this is something that we got to keep in mind. And I think that's why they pulled his ass out. Because the Judge Chin was trying to save Roach. These stupid names. And so sometimes I be thinking it's a psyops. Look at that name, Chittum and Roach. Moving forward, coercion of the right to testify. Okay, that's all of them. Everybody. The defense established that the off-record gentleman's agreement entirely distinct from the normal trial strategies. They will argue that the chaotic collapse of the unrecorded deal, leaving Anthony with only 10 minutes to decide whether to take the stand, was unprecedented, effectively coercing him to waive his constitutional right to testify in his own defense. So this is what's going to be working for Karmelo, and this will be working against Karmelo. So a public court rarely overturns murder conviction if they believe that the alleged error would have not changed the jury final decision. But it probably would. It probably would have changed the sentencing. They would have knew. That's why even the stuff I heard, I was just like, nah, something missing. But I was considering things outside that I knew in social media. I don't know what the jury meant, but I know he wasn't supposed to get murdered. So what that goes to say, this is the only reason why they will actually not overturn it, and if they consider this a harmless error. See, Haitian face. They don't mind the judges and the lawyers being friends, talking over your life over dinner. So this may be considered a harmless error. The disrespect for me. You people, I feel disrespected that I can even research this and then say this. Okay? Tell my grandma, this them no good. So they may consider this just a harmless error. To win an appeal, the defense must prove that the error wasn't harmless. Prosecutors will argue that even if the gentleman agreement was messy, it actually protected Anthony from a life sentence. Because they're saying that his past was just as messed up. They would have thought that Anthony was a killer. Crazy. One turning a bully and a killer because mama and daddy turned him on, and one turning possibly to a school shooter because he possibly getting bullied, don't know how to control his emotional intelligence, not adapting to this white ass community that he in, and so much more. And then the girlfriend, the hormones, the sex, and all this crazy stuff. Okay? Moving forward, they may think that it's a harmless error. That's bad. So the backfiring character evidence is what I was just talking about, because they can take that and run with it instead, because they would never know child psychologists there actually testifying, saying anything. That like this is part of child development. He probably said this, but he didn't mean this. Dealing with none of that was on the record. So it can play against Karmelo. The attorney-client privilege bar. These hearings, Karmelo was supposed to be part of it first and foremost. When prosecutors asked if Anthony, original defense attorney, explicitly advised him not to testify at that time, the defense successfully blocked the answer using attorney-client privileges. So at that time when he didn't answer, allegedly, they said Shook didn't answer that, but he obviously agreed with Anthony not going on the stand because he was even scared of his friend because he knew his friend was eating his butt and he was going to eat Carmelo up too. Okay, so the verdict on the appeal. Ultimately, the Fifth Court of Appeals will likely view the judgment order as a failed technical gamble by the attorney original leading team. I'm thinking because this is a normality, even though it's against the law, and we're in the Trump world, it's a possibility that they would try to ignore it. And that's what I'm just trying to get to. I know my words are jumping around, but I I don't have as much hope in the system as y'all do. We gotta turn this motherfucker around personally, and we have to get in a position to turn them around. Or we have to fight for our rights in this manner and show all of these calls for actions to get them in trouble and put them on a record. But I'm trying to have hope in the system. So we're going to talk about the habeas corpus, releasing the body on top of the appeal, because I think that's what they're going to be actually moving forward, put a motion to try to get Carmelo up out of there. Okay? So breakdown, the Strickland test. Established in the United States Supreme Court, Strickland versus Washington. The legal standard requires the defense to prove two distinct prongs. If the defense fails to prove either one, the conviction stands. Okay? This is what the defense has to do. The defense, one, the error prong. One, the defense must prove that the original trial lawyer made mistakes so serious that they were not able to functionally correct or recounsel the defendant and guarantee that their Sixth Amendment rights, 16th Amendment rights have not been violated. The legal standards, the attorney's behavior must fall below the objective standards of reasonableness based on the professional norms, and that's what I told you. Basically, this Strickland test, to get this thing overturned, they're gonna have to prove this stuff. And I believe that Carmelo Anthony legal team defense fell far beyond the norms. Not only that he didn't testify, but the shadow docket. From them not even getting clarification, keying around fake pre-trials about, yeah, I didn't think he was serious. Gross negligence. Gross. That's not what it's called, gross negligence. But they need to go get his ass sanctioned. I said it. Mr. Shooks, you need to be sanctioned. Okay? So, here we go. The hurdle. The court heavily presumes that attorneys make technical decisions for strategic reasons. Court rarely penalize lawyers for strategic gambling that simply did not work. I want y'all to keep this in mind, because these decisions are going to have to be based on precedents too, not just how we feel. We see the shit that's wrong, but what other cases do they have behind this that's going to support that this case should be turned over? And that's when we're going to get into Attorney Simone as well. Okay, the next thing that the defense is going to have to prove, two prongs. The second prong is prejudice. Even the original lawyer completely failed the first prong that we talked about. Okay, the conviction will not be overturned unless the defense proves the failure actively ruined the whole trial. Okay, so legal standard, the defense must show that reasonable possibility that but for counsel and unprofessional errors and result of the proceedings that was held back, that there would have been a different outcome. That's the second prong. Not only that, the gross like negligence, that's what I call it, but not representing the client correctly. But now he has to prove on the second end that all what he did not do led to this conviction. This is what this is going to have to do. And now this appeal. Does that make sense? So the hurdle, as seen in August hearing, if Anthony had testified, prosecutors would have introduced his toxic text messages to to the jury. This states the state will argue that the evidence would have made a guilty verdict more likely because of this evidence. We brought this up. So this is how it works against him too, even though we're saying like is lesser, is it in text, things that because we don't have a specialist breaking down psychological approach of what Carmelo may have been going through. his text is bare. They can take it and make it whatever, okay? And say he was a problem child. Does that make sense? That's why I think they should have just did a ballot census reduction. This is a lot. This is a lot. So if this leads to just them going to do a census reduction, I'm going to tell y'all I told y'all so. Because the way the system is set up, bitch, they're here taking our money. Have us go through all of this and know they're going to set us up. Okay? I'm just a regular researcher, and I could see that I was saying things like, damn, he may not get it. I was surprised they gave a new judge, but I think that was a benefit for the judge, not for Karmelo. Personally. All right, so let's just distinguish the two things, the direct appeal that's going versus a writ of habeas corpus, okay? Let's get to it. Let's get to it. We'll give you a little bit more insight into the habeas corpus, just a little bit. Following the denial for the motion for a new trial, Karmelo Anthony defense team led by attorney Russell will do a dual attack post-conviction strategy. Direct appeal followed by a writ of habeas corpus. Release the body. While the direct appeal focused strictly on the errors written down or not written down within the trial's transcripts, a writ of habeas corpus focused on information from Article 1107 writ in Texas. All right, let's get into it. All right, this is a civil procedure they would use to challenge the lawful of his imprisonment, okay? Release the body, okay? Okay, this is what the habeas corpus was. If y'all don't know, they tried to do it in the Rodney Henson case, and it was not granted, but this is what the habeas corpus was. Upon the upcoming habeas corpus petition will focus heavily on the constitutional errors behind the scenes, violations that the defense spent 2 days establishing during the August 2026 hearings. Ineffective assistance of counseling will be one of the grounds for this habeas corpus to be granted. The primary pillar of the habeas petition will be an attack on the attorney's original defense lawyer. Get them, okay, for the handling of the gentleman agreement. The claim to win the habeas corpus release of the body claim for ineffective assistance of counseling, the new defense must prove that the original lawyer action fell far below, as I mentioned to you guys, the objective standards of competency for lawyers, okay? The people argue that they relied on an undocumented record, a handshake agreement between a prosecutor who was friends, allegedly, that regarded critical characteristic evidence that would have helped or broke on both sides either way. So it really didn't make no difference. The defense will assert that the original team failed to protect Anthony's 15th Amendment right to testify. I'm sorry. Fifth. I'm getting tired. Where we at? 2 hours, 45 minutes. Let's go. His Fifth Amendment right to testify by leaving him with only a chaotic 10-minute window to decide. So this is what they're going to be fighting under the habeas corpus. If y'all didn't know, this is the next part of the appeal that they'll be putting in. Now, violation of due process, the shadow docket. Again, this is going to be part of that. Putting in, again, the shadow docket is the reason why the argument under the 14th Amendment, a defendant has the constitutional right to be present at all critical stages of their trial. The defense will argue that these secret interactions completely undermine due process and fundamentally tainted the structural fairness of the procedures. So this is how they're going to be fighting under the habeas corpus. And then they're going to highlight the fact that the new discovered evidence and how that plays a part. Unlike the direct appeal, the habeas corpus allows the defendant to officially, so with the habeas corpus, is going to allow them to officially introduce outside evidence. Now this may help, so that's what we're going to have to do a part 7, girl, because it may come in that Karmelo has some interactions with these Metcalf boys. So during the habeas corpus hearings, let's see how this works out. So the argument under the 14th Amendment Amendment, a defendant has a constitutional right to be present at the all critical stage. Okay, let's move on to newly discovered evidentiary claim. The claim the defendant will use the petition to officially preserve the hostile background of the victim, Austin Metcalf. The argument, they will argue that the original trial jury was forced to deliberate in a vacuum, unaware of Metcalf history or racial graffiti, bullying, school weapons, beating on his mother, beating on women, hell, mustache man, his suspension, him being locked up, all that. So how the habeas corpus process may unfold, the habeas corpus is pretty much a slow process, just like the appeal process. Filing in Collin County, the defense will file the writ of habeas corpus in a local trial court in McKinney. Even though the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals makes the final decision, the local court acts as the fact finder in that. Battle of the affidavits, okay? The court will likely order Anthony, original defense attorney, and the prosecutor to submit sworn affidavits explaining exactly what happened during the collapse of the gentleman agreement. So yeah, we're gonna be following with a part 7 when this come up. Did anybody know it's gonna be a habeas corpus out? Yes, sir. Reviewed by the highest court. Once the local court gathered the evidence, the entire file is forwarded to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals in Austin, Texas, the highest criminal court in the state, which holds ultimate power to vacate the 35-year sentence. All right. All right. So when I get into that, on our part 7, we'll get into the timeline of the habeas corpus. So y'all just know we're gonna be up in 2027 with this stuff, 2028. Okay, so these are other questions that I have about this particular situation that I think other people have as well. And I wanted to get to it. Where we at? Okay, well, good. We still have a little bit more time. But before we get into these other questions, I'm going to show Attorney Simone. Shout out to Attorney Simone, because this was a case that she brought up in comparison to the Karmelo Anthony case. And she gave her reasoning why the case may be overturned. Check this out. I was like, oh snap. I didn't know that. You know, you learn something every day. Black girl magic. Made out like a bandit. Y'all know who I am. Let's go.
Yeah, it's your legal bestie, Attorney Simone, and we're going to jump right into this. Now,
I listen to the first 7 minutes, and then we're going to jump to 16 minutes, and then I'm put information at the bottom, okay?
We're going to be analyzing this unique argument that Karmelo Anthony's defense team made, that it's the same argument that actually got Bill Cosby released. So I need you to stay with me for a moment. It's very unique. Also, if you are a content creator, you want to cite me, go for it. Please do. Please just cite me as Attorney Simone and send them to my YouTube channel here, which is Girl, Is That Legal? Also,
Is that
if
legal?
you are interested in a consultation or would like to take my new course called Get the Receipts, you can head to my YouTube channel, SimoneRedwine.com, to sign up for Get the Receipts, which teaches you how to do background checks just like I do. Link in the bio below. Now let's get into it. Now,
Hold on, before we get there,
a few years ago, Bill
give me 1
Cosby.
second. Before we get there, because you know we are drifters here. I work hard for my money. So if you're interested in learning about tax liens and tax deeds, that's the only thing that I have to share with you to support this channel. We put in work here, okay? I'm just gonna keep it real. We got white America acting like they don't drift. But to just show you what Ms. Grace Levi do, we don't drift. I put in work. So if you're interested in learning about tax liens and tax deeds, I need you guys to get this right. Let's put this on the screen real quick. Do I got it? Yeah, black girl magic.
Blowing cash onto random TikTok trends. Instead, dive into real estate monthly info sessions. Next level smart move. These sessions make real estate investing feel like a cheat code. Unlock wealth, understand tax lien options, and mitigate risks without the stress. Crazy affordable, like a Netflix subscription for your financial future. With thousands attending, it's legit. Wealth, knowledge, ease, don't miss out. Sign up now.
Yes, Black Girl Magic, made it like a bandit. Please sign up, y'all, if y'all want to learn a little bit more about alternative real estate investments. That's what I do, baby. If you want to learn how to do your due diligence while investing in foreclosures, land banks, tax lien certificates, everything outside of the normal, how can I say, Death Note, I got you, baby. Here we do our due diligence. Obviously, you see, I ain't shut up yet. Hit the like button. Okay, so let's go. Now, I'm messing with the people in the audience. You know how white people are. I'm gonna keep it real. Shout out to Miss Simone as she breaks down how the Bill Cosby case was overturned in relations to similar issues like the Carmelo Anthony case.
He was sentenced to 10 years for SA. Okay, YouTube words, we're going to use SA. And after serving 3 of them, his legal team had appealed in the Supreme Court of the state that he was convicted in, which was Pennsylvania. They overturned that verdict. They were citing, as it says here, due process violations. And it happens to be the same violation that Carmelo Anthony's legal team claimed was violated for him pursuant to the quote, gentleman's agreement. Okay, now let's start with what the heck is a gentleman's agreement? Well, here in the Carmelo Anthony trial, that agreement was an agreement that said, hey, Carmelo, we won't bring in any bad history that you have or bad text messages or anything from you if your legal team won't say anything negative about Austin or his brother. Now, number one, I don't know what the surviving brother had to do with this and why the state thought it was appropriate to create a legal agreement on behalf of the surviving brother when they do not represent the surviving brother because there's no attempt at nothing on him. So that was strange. That's an issue for a different video. Also, a separate video. We're going to go into the uncovered evidence. We'll go deep dive more into the evidence that was excluded. Here, I just want to show you an analogy of why I think this is a strong argument that's being made by Carmelo's team. So basically, what Carmelo's team is saying is that there was an unwritten agreement between the defense and the state that Karmelo relied upon to his detriment. And that had the state not made that verbal agreement, and Karmelo would have defended himself more vigorously. He would have brought into the case, Austin's record for bullying, Austin and his brother's record for bullying, the racism, the fact that he got in trouble for racist, inward graffiti, etc., etc. They would have brought those things out, but for relying upon the state's so-called the unwritten agreement. Now the state is saying we didn't have an agreement. What are you talking about? Well, let's go back to Bill Cosby. Here's how Bill Cosby got his case thrown out and released. Not only did he get released, but he got released and they said, we're not even going to retry you because here's what happened. So there was a prior district attorney in the Bill Cosby case. And that district attorney, when he reviewed the facts of the Bill Cosby SA case against the same exact victim, that DA basically said, we don't have enough here to bring charges and win criminally. So that DA verbally went to the victim and said, hey, victim, listen, we're probably not going to, we are not, affirmatively said, we're not bringing criminal charges. But here's how I can help. By us not bringing criminal charges, what that does is that forces Bill Cosby to testify in a civil case and do a deposition, in which case you can probably get millions. So what happens is this.
And I told you guys I did that in my thing against the guy who tried to scam me. I took him to civil court and I won and he told on himself. So that information could be actually used in a criminal case.
And if there's a civil case and a criminal case pending on the same related issues, then the defendant, when it's Bill Cosby's time to do a deposition, Bill would show up to the depot and say, I plead the fifth to prevent any risk that his testimony in the civil case could result in him getting locked up. That's the whole thing that's the whole thing that pleading the fifth protects. It only protects your right to be incarcerated based on what you say. So, by the prosecutor saying, hey, I'm going to go to Bill's lawyers and say we're not going to criminally prosecute him, that literally forced Bill Cosby to show up and testify at the deposition. And therefore, at the deposition is where he admitted what he did. Then what happened was later, they got a new DA, got a new sheriff in town. That new DA used the deposition testimony that the prior DA said, oh, we'll never ever prosecute you, so go tell everything you know. So the Supreme Court ruled that even where there is an unwritten agreement, if a defendant relies upon the words of a prosecutor to their detriment, then you cannot, then you have to uphold the agreement. Listen again. If a defendant relies upon an oral agreement made with a prosecutor, so if they rely upon it to their detriment, then even though it's written, the state must abide by it. Now that was Pennsylvania State Supreme Court, but it don't matter what state it is. Let me show you right now.
Go ahead, girl.
So then,
Go ahead, teach them. Okay? Go ahead. They must.
here in this case, so remember this title, the reason Bill Cosby was released from prison is because the Supreme Court found there was a due process violation. Due process means his rights were violated, with respect to his Fifth Amendment, as in the right to say, I am going to testify or I am not going to testify. So look at this portion of the argument Karmelo Anthony's lawyer made. I don't say, I always come with my receipts. So here I got a copy of the motion for new trial filed in the legal.
So I want y'all to look at her video. I'm going to skip to 16 because she said something important at 16 minutes. But I wanted you guys to know that there's other cases that have been overturned that was popular that may give us some hope. Okay? Because y'all know sometimes I turn pessimistic and I'm like, baby, we got all of this, but we still may lose. You know what I mean? Because this is what they do. Y'all remember Tucson, one of the great, our great hero in Haiti who helped us get free. You know what his destiny was? Because he trusted the enemy, thought he could go bargain, death in jail. After he freed us. Okay? No, we learned, fuck yeah, hell no. Even if we beat y'all butt, we ain't coming back to make no deals. So let's listen.
Applying to character, reputation, and extraneous evidence applicable to all witnesses. Those were the things that were going to be covered in the gentleman's agreement. Now let me tell you, a motion to eliminate means basically a motion to limit topics at trial. You have them filed all the time. Here's part of the problem with this nincompoop of a judge, how he proceeded. Because he did everything in secrecy, and there wasn't a public docket like there's been in every other case that ever done. If you go to the case now, the docket, there are certain individual documents that are sealed, but the docket as a whole is a public docket. Anyone can see it, click a document and get and review any unsealed document. Now, this judge, I'm gonna tell you, did y'all know this judge was so, as in Roach, the one they had to get rid of because of his lack of impartiality with appearance error. This judge is so interesting that so in Texas, every lawyer must electronically file any document so that it appears automatically on the docket and it's electronically housed. This judge made them take all the things that be on the docket, not make them publicly available, print them out, create an entire file for him, and he kept the file in his office. He's got it in his chambers. No one can see the file but him and the state, and whoever the state wants to, including Karmelo's new appellate lawyers, wanted to read the entire file. Do you know they told his lawyer, there's a document here, I'm not trying to make this take forever, but literally there's an affidavit
You be cooking. Go ahead, girl. I'll give you a few more minutes. Yeah.
from his current attorney that is saying, I tried to see the full file and they told me I had to sign an agreement that I wouldn't share it. He said, I'm not going to sign an agreement to say I'm not going to share something I haven't seen myself. So his lawyer was willing to go to Chambers to look at everything. So his lawyer wasn't trying to take documents out. But the judge is saying, no, you gotta agree you're not gonna talk to anybody about what's in here, share it, and we're not gonna let you see anything. Unheard. Unheard. They didn't even do that in Diddy. You think in the Diddy trial that lawyer, the federal judge, took the whole Diddy file and had it in below his desk? So
Absolutely not. So
Here, though.
I'm going to leave this information. I'm going to leave this information here for you. Her name is Ms. Lawyer Simone. This is a channel that I came across. When I hear good commentary and I get good vibes, this is what I share with you guys. But so with that goes to say, I'm about to get off this screen. I love you guys. I'm going to put something on the screen for you guys because I didn't want to culture shock y'all, but we about to culture shock you right on. Because I'm going to have to.
Because you are that, you are capable. Speak to you tomorrow. I wanted to switch it up because we talked about this last Thursday morning, the case of Casey Allison, which took place in Texas, the same state that Karmelo Anthony case took place. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let's put these two on the screen. In the back, you're going to see Casey Allison and Mr. Ramirez. This took place around 2 years ago where Mr. Allison basically was involved in a deadly attack against Ramirez. And if you don't remember, we're going to go back into that right now. So where we left off, because I was trying to figure out how we're going to start this. Because there's so many similarities, it's ridiculous. But I think we're going to start where we left off last week. And where we left off last week was that they were about to rest their case. There were a lot of testimonies that took place. Let's get this article on the screen real quick. Thank you for being here with Grace Levi, where we are bringing you topics that deal with law, crime, crooked politicians, and much more. So today we're going to go into a little bit of what are the requirements for murder, capital murder, and what else? Manslaughter in the state of Texas, because I want us to be prepared for what may happen with the case that we're keeping our eye on, which is the Karmelo Anthony case. So we're going to follow up. I'm going to do a little bit digging on the Karmelo Anthony case. We do have the police report. Just want to give you a heads up what we're going to be doing because we're going to be following this case. But Casey Allison, state arrest and murder case against Texas man accused of stabbing classmate in school bathroom. Now, this took place in 2022. If you don't remember, the state and the defense team rest their case Friday in the murder trial of Casey Allison, accused of unaliving his classmate in 2022. All right, so prosecutors said Allison, the 18-year-old unalived Joseph Ramirez, I do apologize, his name is Ramirez, 18, by basically stabbing him multiple times during a fight involving several students on May 18th, 2022. Okay, police arrest Allison shortly after the incident and found a folded knife in his home covered in what appeared to be, you know what. So we went into the details. This is one thing I want to highlight before we get into basically the case outcome today. We're going to play this little flashback real quick. This is something that really stood out to me because he was going for self-defense. But when you listen to some of the evidence of the case, you may question. Oh. Pull my kids out because I don't Put my kids out because I don't deal with this where you say I can't come in there when I want to, or I can't pick against game. Hold on, make sure I got the right clip. Oh, hold on 1 second. I guess that's the full clip. Give me 1 second. You know, we live. Okay, here we go. Let's put this back on the screen.
The brother of Joe Ramirez returned to the stand today in the murder trial against Kason Allison.
Allison is accused of stabbing and killing Joe Ramirez in a Belton High bathroom in 2022. 6 News reporter Sydney Walker has been in court all week. Sydney, what did you learn today?
Ramirez's brother returned to the stand today along with 2 others. Emotions ran high today, with one member in the gallery removed from the gallery after he yelled out at the defense, calling him ignorant, and was escorted out of the courtroom. Ramirez's brother, plus a medical examiner and a close friend of Kason, were on the stand today. Today, we learned Joe Ramirez had been previously arrested for assault when he was 18 and the victim was 17. He was brought to tears. Ramirez's brother was brought to tears when videos from that day were shown to him. The defense also asked if Ramirez was, quote, mad that Kason fought back, to which he replied, I'm mad that he killed my brother. Next up was a medical examiner who oversaw Ramirez's autopsy. He shared that their examination found 4 separate.
Now, I need you guys to listen to this right here. Now, this right here, I'm questioning the self-defense argument because of this detail right here. But this is being swept under the rug, and no one is talking about this.
Stab wounds on Ramirez's body.
Hold on.
Ramirez's body. 4 separate stab wounds on Ramirez's body. The examiner said that the cause of death was stabbing with homicide as the matter of death. We learned there was 1 large stab wound across Ramirez's chest, which caused multiple injuries to both the heart itself and the left lung, as well as 2 stab wounds on his buttocks and a wound on his upper back and left forearm. Last up for the day was a friend of Allison who shared that he had heard from others that Allison had brought a knife to school that day, but was unsure if Allison had told him this personally. That friend will. So let's listen to the details here. If you hear, there was numerous stab wounds. I think in one of the broadcast clips I have, literally, it seems like it was 2 in the front and 4 in the back, in the buttocks, in the back of the shoulder. This was a murder.
Bathroom in 2022.
Yep. And I'm going to stop right there. That was a little flashback. Now, this is the remarkable difference between the Casey Allison case and what's going on with Karmelo Anthony. This young man basically attacked him and stabbed him more than 1 time. And we're going to hear that he said a statement kind of similar to Karmelo Anthony. But before we do that, let's just listen to the verdict and outcome, because Casey Allison was found guilty of lesser charges in death of Joe Ramirez. So from what I'm hearing, this young man is going to be serving 8 months for the death. We're going to verify that of the younger young man. And that was one of the things we were questioning. How was this Caucasian young boy going to be treated in this state? Now, we're going to look at the law right after this, and then we're going to look at Mr. Ramirez's mother's response. But let's listen.
With no breaking news.
All right, we do begin today with some breaking news this noon hour out of Bell County, where a jury has reached a verdict just about an hour ago in the trial of Kason Allison. We know a lot of you have been following this very closely. Allison was accused of fatally stabbing Joe Ramirez at Belton High School back in 2022. After several hours of deliberation, the jury found Allison not guilty of murder in the death of Ramirez, but guilty of criminally negligent homicide. News 10's Isabella Quintanilla is joining us now live from outside the Bell County Justice Center, where she has been following this trial since last week. Isabella, what can you tell us?
Yeah, that's right, Julie. It has been a long couple of days with the jurors deliberating for nearly 11 hours in total, and many people anxiously awaited the verdict. And as you can imagine, emotions were extremely high as they waited. Even before the jury came in, the entire courtroom was tense, with people on both sides of the court looking both nervous and already getting emotional. As the deputy read the verdict to the defense, there were gasps of shock and relief from both sides. And when walking out, the anger and frustration among Joe Ramirez's family and friends was clear, with one person throwing a water bottle against a wall, another screaming as they walked out of the building. We did hear from Allison's defense attorney, Zachary Boyd, who says this was a hard case, but that they're relieved by the outcome.
This case has been accompanied with threats against Case and Allison, against Case and Allison's family, against the defense team. You felt that tension in the courtroom. We have continually requested people to keep an eye out, people to investigate. And I'm just thankful that the Bell County Sheriff's Office has taken it so seriously and taken everyone's safety seriously. Kaysen's family, the juries.
All right, so you heard that right there. So basically, they were trying to go for murder, and they got him for criminal neglect homicide. So let's see what that actually means in the state of Texas. Now, we're going to use two secondary resources, and then when we actually go into the police report for Karmelo, we're going to go into first resources. Y'all know what we talk about here. So secondary resources coming from a law firm or, a credible website that, like FindLaw or law.com, those type of places. So that's where we're going to go. Hold on. We'll show up. Let's go. Please hit the like button. Thank you for being here. I love to talk about law, and we're going to be picking a few different cases to just follow and keep our eye on and learn how law applies to them in their state, what made the case come out the way it did. The same thing that we've been doing on our other topics when it comes to the court cases that was happening in Dalton and Thornton. All right, so let's go. Texas first-degree murder. Now, hold on. Is this the one I wanted to show? No, I wanted to show this article. This is from a law firm, okay? Let's get to this one first because this is more comprehensive. All right. Tussin law firm. All right, so these are the different degree of murder charges in Texas. Now, we already know that when it comes to Karmelo, they're going for murder. Let's find exactly how criminal neglect homicide is applied in Texas. This is what Allison was granted, okay? So criminal neglect homicide in Texas represent the lowest level of criminal homicide charges. When comparing criminal charges, neglect homicide versus manslaughter, the key difference is lies in your state of mind, okay? Criminal neglect homicide versus manslaughter, your state of mind. So we're going to keep that right there because we want to make sure that when it comes to Karmelo Anthony case that this is the type of things that's going to be applied, especially to the charges. But they're trying to do manslaughter. So let's see if does his case fit that too. Unlike manslaughter, where a person is aware but disregard the risk, criminally neglect homicide occurs when a person should have been aware of the substantial and justified risk that death would result from their conduct but failed to perceive it. For example, leaving a loaded firearm within reach of a small child who then caused a fatal accident. This is an example he gave you. To be charged with criminal negligent homicide in Texas, prosecutor must prove that your failure to perceive the risk constitute a gross deviation from the standards of care that a ordinary person would exercise. Criminal neglect homicide is charged as a state jail felony, punishable by 180 days to 2 years in state jail, fine up to $10,000. So allegedly, he's supposed to get 8 months. But listening to criminal neglect, I really don't think that the Casey Allison case falls under that. And the reason why I say that is because there is some factors that we talked about And one of the factors that we just showed you, literally, it was about 6 stab wounds, 4 to 6 stab wounds. Now, the first 2 was in the front. So the next 4 or 3 to 4 was in the victim's back. So this told me that this gentleman, Casey Allison, almost lost his mind. It seemed like he followed through with some of the things he wanted to do, because according to one of the witnesses, they stated that Casey Allison, after having an encounter with Ramirez at the prom about the girl, he called to try to get a firearm. Now they allege that Ramirez and his brother were fighters, recorders of fights. So these are some of the factors that we want to keep in mind. Now, when someone stabs somebody more than once, twice, or 3 times, in this particular case, how does it fall under criminal neglect homicide? So one of the factors, what they were saying, what makes it much different is the mindset. So the only thing that I can think of, because I'm hearing the testimony where it's contradictory between the kids, where they say that Casey didn't want to fight. He just wanted to get out of school. And then you have another one that has texts and phone calls. He's asking for a guard you now. And it was another statement that if you go look at the other video, one of the students testified that he said he wanted to unalive Ramirez and take his life, and just, it was really graphic. It was sounding a little deviant. So I'm like, okay, this is a back and forth thing between these kids. Now, I know someone over the age of 18 is going to understand that if you somebody more than one time or even once, that is a possibility that they won't be alive. Okay, so let's go back up to the top of this article where they're going to talk about capital murder, manslaughter. All right, so let's get into what capital murder is looking like in Texas. In Texas, the most serious homicide charge is capital murder, meaning it's essential what other states call first-degree murder. We should note that when discussing capital murder versus first-degree murder, Texas typically does not use the term first degree at all. As the most serious homicide charge in the state, capital murder carries the most severe penalty, punishable for such charges either by death penalty or life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. So what exactly is capital murder? To be charged with capital murder in Texas it must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant intentionally or knowingly caused the death of another who was acting under lawful duty, or that the victim was under age of 10. Those who paid to commit murder, pay another to commit murder, or try to escape a penal institute may be also charged with capital murder. Ooh, even if you try to escape jail. All right, so there's some high standards. Well, it's just they didn't give us a lot. Let's go to this one. You see how that's a second level resource, and that resource is kind of like, let's get here. Let's go here. Let's go findlaw.com. I think that'll be better. I like the way this one read. Let's get to findlaw.com, Texas first degree murder. Okay. So let's get down to what they're saying. Additional criteria for capital murder, which is first degree murder. These are details. Okay. The victim is a police officer or firearm was acting under the law. In addition, the above criteria in order to charge to be capital murder as opposed to just murder. So if the person is a law enforcement, the defendant intentionally commits the murder in the course of committing or intent to commit kidnap, burglary, robbery, aggravated sexual assault, arson, obstruction, and retaliation or terroristic threats. Oh, okay. Now it says the defendant is paid to commit the murder or pays someone else. That's capital. That's like intentional. Defendant commits the crime while trying to escape from penal institution. The defendant murders another person while in jail. The defendant murdered more than one person. The defendant's a child younger than 6 years of age. The defendant murdered a child 6 years of age, so that's considered capital murder. All right. And the last thing, the defendant murdered someone in retaliation for or an account of service of a member of a jury. So that's how it meets the criteria for Texas capital murder. So possible defense: lack of intent, lack of knowledge, insanity, intoxication, self-defense. These are some of the self-defense possible defenses they can have. But hold on. I think I want just murder. Okay. Okay. We're gonna let me pull it up. Give me one more second. So I want just murder. What it's saying here, because this okay, let me see. Can I get the penal code? Hold on, guys. Because I want to get more detail. You see how didn't give us a lot? Texas penal code. So let's just get to murder real quick. And this is what they're gonna be charging Mr. Karmelo with. Okay, so I just want y'all to know the difference, because they charged originally casing with murder, but then it got downgraded to criminal neglect homicide, which they said is the lowest type of murder that could be charged. And they're basically saying that he did it intentionally. And I don't agree with that because of the circumstances. But the reason why we're going over this too, because we want to compare and contrast to when the trial started for Karmelo. So this is Texas Penal Code Section 19.02, murder. Let's read it. We got it on the screen. All right. Okay, so in this section, adequate cause mean cause that would commonly produce a degree of anger, rage, resentment, terror in the person of ordinary temper sufficient to render the mind incapable of cool reflection. Okay. Sudden passion, meaning passion directly caused by and raised out of provocation by the individual killer or another acting with the person killing. Sorry, I'm saying the word so clear. Which passion arise at the time of the offense and is not solely the result of former provocations. So this is basically something just happened. You just kind of just react, and it wasn't your intention. That's what it's saying. Sudden passion. Okay, so or adequate cause, and it says this is usually caused by rage, resentment, or something like that. Okay, now these are some of the criteria that I can see fitting in the Casey Allison case because we know more details. So we have to keep in mind that we don't know details of Mr. Karmelo Anthony. That's why I really want to see. We have to follow the case, and I would pray that it will be live because it's going to be a lot of biased news. So there's two criteria that I already think that Casey Allison case did fit murder, but we will move down. A person commits an offense if he is intentionally or knowingly caused the death of an individual, and I think that fits the Casey Allison case because after stabbing his victim twice, and the young man must have turned around, he was able to stab him at least 4 more times, even in the buttocks. The buttocks. So I'm saying that because in my head, I can envision somebody probably trying to pull Allison off of him. And he's literally enraged. That's kind of what I'm seeing, but you let me know. All right. So intends to cause seriously bodily injury and commits the acts clearly dangerous to human life that cause the death of an individual. Okay. Commits or attempts to commit a felony or other manslaughter in the course of the furtherance of a commission of attempt in immediate flight from. So this right here, I know what it's getting to. Basically, if you and your buddy are doing a crime, and I know this something similar is in Florida, and your buddy end up dying at the hands of the cop or somebody around end up dying in the commission of that crime, even your buddy, you could be charged with murder. So that's what it's saying here. I know this is just about to get to that. Basically, it's the same thing that they do in Jersey, I think, as well as I definitely know Florida. So, expect as provided by Section D, except by provided by Section D, and if offense under this section is a felony of the first degree. So, what happens in D? At the punishment stage of the trial, the defendant may raise the issue as to whether he caused the death under immediate influence of sudden passion arise from the adequate cause. If the defendant proves the issue in a affirmative by a predominance of evidence, the offense is a felony and of second degree. So basically, if Karmelo, because at this point they didn't charge Allison with second degree, they literally took it all the way down to the lower. But if I think that's why they changed the charges against Karmelo, because they wanted to eliminate him, basically kind of saying that it was in sudden passion and things like that. So they will have more of a chance to actually get a conviction based on second degree. Let's see if we can find what second degree murder is. I think what we're going to do is when we read the actual, because all they have what I have right now until we do that live, I do have the police report. I do have where all the cops, what they said happened, and some of the statements that Karmelo had made. Okay. So as we talk about the statements that Karmelo made, and I want to compare and contrast both these cases because they both pretty similar and they're in the same state. What a coincidence. And as you see, Casey Allison, his charges has been downgraded to criminal negligent homicide. And from what I heard, he is going to be basically serving 8 months. Okay. Casey Allison murder charge. Accused killer said he wanted slain Texas teen on life support before fatal stabbing. So I just wanted to show you this because these are some of the things that was buzzing around, and I don't know if it was able to be submissible because some things they just won't let be submissible. But if Casey Allison said this, do you guys believe or do you think that he was supposed to get criminally negligent homicide or second degree? Because now I'm thinking second degree, if it's more into second degree. But Casey Allison murder trial, accused killer, which is Casey Allison, said he wanted slain teen on life support before fatal stabbing, witness said. So that was the witness statement that I was talking about. So I just wanted to show you this article that was brought to us by Crime Online. So this was a testimony. As the testimony continued Monday in the order of Casey Allison, the man accused of killing the classmate. It says let's see where it just gets to exactly what the person said. It says Barnes said the fight was supposed to happen off of campus and recall Allison saying that he wanted Ramirez on life support. She said she had no knowledge of a claim that Ramirez punched someone else before the incident. So you got both sides kind of giving different testimony. Like I said, one has said that Allison, got beat up at the prom and didn't call for a guard you now. But I want you to know some of the elements of these cases because we couldn't get to watch it, but then we get to see the outcome. But we never really get to see the element of some of these cases. We just really get sensationalism. We get what people feel, full of hate and emotions, but we don't get the points that got us to the outcome. And I think once we learn as a people to pay attention more to that, we're going to see that our system is severely flawed, and or the jury knowledge of convictions and laws and ways of process, finding people guilty or not is severely flawed as well, because there is a issue with juries and the way they make decisions. It is a lot of juries that literally is exposed to the material of the case outside of the case. Example, YSL, things like that. So because it is so normalized right now for us literally to have trials in front of everybody, It is obscuring the justice system. I'm just being honest. So, mother of Mr. Ramirez respond to Casey Allison verdict. So let's just hear the response of a mom. And the reason why I do want to show this because they are children, even though you don't believe it. And this is because it's a hot topic. These are children at high school, and I know a lot of us are parents, and our kids in house, and we don't know what's going on in there, how mind fried they are to get to this level on top of those active shooters that we got. So that's why I thought that this was a good case to follow because I am a mom and I end up pulling my kids out of school because of certain things such as violence not being controlled. You see what I'm saying? So I think that we're going to definitely keep our eyes on this.
More news tonight. The mother of Joe Ramirez is now.
All right. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get to the video that I did before this, where it's going to give the details of the Casey Allison case. Now, I want you guys to mark the similarities and the difference. And now you know that the Casey Allison case, which was a Caucasian kid, he basically got 8 months in jail. And they lowered it to the lowest murder charge or neglect in his particular case. And now we're looking at what's going on with Karmelo Anthony, highlighting that it's in the same exact state. So I'm glad that I actually went over this case because now to see the out of the Karmelo Anthony case, it says a lot. And that's why at the corner of the screen, I have justice or just us. Okay. Things happen that's not supposed to happen, but we want a just system. So let's watch a little bit just on the Casey Allison case so you guys can see the similarity. And if Casey Allison was sentenced the way he was sentenced, then I truly believe that Carmelo's sentence was excessive and maybe definitely based on race relationships. Let's watch this. And his victim, but we also let's get it right here. Welcome to Uncensored Enlightenment Talk. We're doing things a little different. We're just trying some stuff, building the audience, seeing what time frames will work for us for what segments. So yesterday I was supposed to go live last night around 7 p.m. to do the Karmelo Anthony case. Highlighting the major terms, and we're going to compare and contrast to the Casey Allison case. So what we're going to do is do it this morning. So we're going to do the segment, Let's Talk About It with Grace. Thank you for being here. Now, today we're going to talk about 3 cases, or maybe 4, because this issue with these 2 young kids, they're babies. This is nothing new to what's going on in the United States. As you can see, I don't only have Casey Allison here. Don't only have Carmelo Anthony and his victim, but we also gonna go into Kyle Rittenhouse, as well as another stabbing that just took place a couple of days ago. So we're going to highlight to you today that this is a systemic issue. All right. What we're going to try to do most likely on all our broadcasts is not be biased. We're going to give you all angles and we're going to talk about it because I think a lot of people are missing the mark with this. They're missing the mark with this, and they're literally using this situation to make it a race war. We're going to watch the interview from Carmelo's family, as well as we're going to watch the interview from the victim's family as well. And we're just going to get into it. So if you got time this morning, please hit the like button. Thank you for tuning in with me and trying some new things out today. I woke up nice and bright and said, hey, let's get it. And I ask you guys, I'm going to be honest, please send love and blessings and prayer to me. Your host, Grace Levi. I've been going through a big transition. It has not been easy for me. Mentally, physically. Well, physically, I've been okay. Financially. So I'm really trying to get my foot back into what's going on with my life,
where I'm going. So please bear with me if I make a live and I don't show up. I do apologize. Last night after working for my other 2 platforms, I just said, let me go to bed, So thank you so much for being here this morning. Now, this just took place most recently. This was a couple of days ago, actually a couple of hours ago. Update: Virginia teen stabbed in school. So let's watch this together because this is another situation that just took place.
Officers say a 16-year-old is in the hospital after being stabbed at West Potomac High School during a fight. Officers arrested a 15-year-old and are now questioning a third teenager. 7 News' Tom Rousey is live in the Alexandria area school. And Tom, you spoke with frightened parents today. What are they telling you?
And Victoria, a lot of them told me their kids actually witnessed this and were very traumatized by it. Let me step out of the way. The kids have been released for the day now. The police have left the scene, but you can still see some of the police tape in the distance there. It's inside the school somewhere near that area where this happened around 9:40 this morning. Now, we want to show you a picture. We're blocking out part of it because it shows the student lying on the ground and there's blood as well that we felt was too disturbing to show. But I can tell you this is the aftermath of that stabbing that happened when students were between classes this morning. Police say 3 students got into a fight. At one point, a 15-year-old pulled out a knife and stabbed a 16-year-old, rushed to the scene to pick their teenagers up. They grew frustrated when the school system would not let them in, even after Fairfax County Police said the danger was over.
Why can't I check out my daughter from school right now? That's all I care about because there's multiple victims in this, and my daughter is one because she witnessed this. She's telling me, Dad, get me out of here.
Wait. Let's stop right here. There's so many things that come to mind when I watch this. Doesn't this look familiar? You remember when they had the active school shooting? It's been so many. The one where the parents had to run in and go get their kids because literally the police was outside afraid to go in, and it took parents to go in to get their kids. Now, this is a whole nother story about the functionality of school. This is the reason why I pull my kids out, because I don't deal with this where you say I can't come in there when I want to, or I can't pick my kids up when I want to. That's a whole nother story. But in this particular situation, again, there was an active stabbing in a high school. And again, what we're not looking at is what is the cause of these active stabbings. When I looked at the statistics of active like crime and stabbings and shootings in school, I mean, from 2020, it skyrocketed. Like something is going on mentally with our kids, emotionally. All right, so this team right here actually survived. This just happened the other day. So we're bringing this up because I want you guys to know that this is not exclusive to what's going on with this infamous case that has to do with, I keep missing so many names, Mr. Hold on one second, Karmelo and Austin. Let me make sure because there's so many going on. It's pretty ridiculous. So again, this just happened the other day. I wanted to make you guys aware of some of the issues that we are facing in our schools, outside of our schools, and what the parents have to deal with. This is very scary. Okay, so let's just watch this real quick.
If everything is safe, like you're saying, I have ID, why can't I check my daughter out of school right now?
The paramount responsibility of our leadership team is to make sure that our campus is safe at this moment. They're also making sure that our 4 lunch periods happen in a calm and orderly and safe manner.
I don't care about lunch right now. Like you're worried about lunch.
If you can
He said, I don't care about lunch. I want my kids. And that's exactly why I homeschool. There was a time where there was some big issue in the school and I couldn't get my kid out of school. It was very troubling. It's very troubling when they say you can't come in to get your child, where there is no emotional discernment. Now, guys, we talked about this before. I don't know if you heard me talk about this in prior broadcasts, but I do connect the emotional state of our people, of our children, to the internet. They have a big lawsuit against gaming. If y'all haven't seen it popping up on your algorithm, because not only did it subject our kids to predators, but it also made them have worse symptoms than ADHD. They have behavior problems. They're emotionally liable, and that is directly connected to them trying to get instant gratification from the game. We can get scientific here because I have talked about this. They have scientifically proven that there is a sensor mechanism in the brain that is skipped when the kids are watching these violent games. What does that mean? Meaning that if they murder somebody in the game, it is not the same sense of, how can I say, urgency, despair, horror that they will feel if they do it in person, because there's this thing called the trumpet circuit. Go look it up. It's so weird. Trumpet circuit. This circuit actually programs the brain not to do something because it felt the pain or it felt the repercussions. So since this is not being done in the game where, someone is being hurt, they lose a life, they could just get it right back. They're bypassing that trumpet circuit, which say, hey, this action will cause pain and horror. Example, if you, as a child, burn their hands on the stove, that trumpet circuit is actually initiated. That burning hot sensation on the skin made them aware, don't do that again. So that is missing from our kids and now a lot of our adults because we're living on the internet. Nothing is truly real to them. Nothing truly affects them because it's an internet land. So trial for another deadly Texas school stabbing involving teenager is flying under the radar. Amy, Karmelo Anthony, and Austin Metcalf murder case. So that's what we want to talk about because this took place about 1.5 years ago with Jose Ramirez and Mr. Casey Allison. Another Texas murder trial involving a high school student stabbing another in ongoing, but has quietly flowed under the radar, aimed the Casey Allison case. Now, it says Casey Allison is on trial for murder. Now, this is Casey Allison right here. It is the Caucasian young man. Is on trial for murder right now for stabbing Jose Ramirez to death during a fight at a Texas high school. His $1 million bond was reduced to $175,000. So that is, that was one of the talking points of the anarchists. I'm going to call the people who want to make this a race issue anarchists. Okay, that's what they want to make this as a race war. But you're going to see it's not a race thing. It's a behavior thing. It's an emotional discernment thing. It's a, excuse me, us not knowing what's going on with our kids, as well as it's a school not addressing issues that are bubbling up with our kids because they don't know how to address it. So, but I have to add, once it gets into the court system and it goes for investigation, it seems like there's some race elements that plays a part. Guess what, TE? You didn't hear any outrage from the same people upset about Karmelo Anthony's bond being reduced. Okay. We're going to highlight the bias. In his case, not only one of his kind take place in Texas at the moment. So they're calling Allison one of their kind. However, as the trial of the students who admitted stabbing his classmate to death a few years ago begins this week, Casey Allison now is 21 and he confessed. So we're going to get into what happened. And this took place inside of the school bathroom. This was an incident, from what I have researched, that was bubbling up for a while. And it seems like both parties in this particular case was pretty sick of each other. So what we're going to do is just look at a few clips so you guys can get an understanding of what happened with the Casey Allison case. And then we're going to get into the Karmelo case and kind of get into another teenager who thinks that he can talk about this, highlighting that he beat a murder trial a couple of years ago, aiming allegedly self-defense. So we're going to compare and contrast what's going on around here, because that really gets to me when people pick and choose what's good and bad. That has always been Grace Levi's argument. You cannot pick and choose what's right for you right now and not right for the other person. Bad is bad. That's why we should not have selected justice. Okay, let's play this real quick.
The brother of Joe Ramirez returned to the stand today in the murder trial against Kason Allison. Allison is accused of stabbing and killing Joe Ramirez in a Belton High bathroom in 2022. 6 News reporter Sydney Walker has been in court all week. Sydney, what did you learn today?
Ramirez's brother returned to the stand today along with 2 others. Emotions ran high today, with one member in the gallery removed from the gallery after he yelled out at the defense, calling him ignorant, and was escorted out of the courtroom. Ramirez's brother, plus a medical examiner and a close friend of Kason, were on the stand today. Today, we learned Joe Ramirez had been previously arrested for assault when he was 18 and the victim was 17. He was brought to tears. Ramirez's brother was brought to tears when videos from that day were shown to him. The defense also asked if Ramirez was, quote, mad that Kason fought back, to which he replied, I'm mad that he killed my brother. Next up was a medical examiner who oversaw Ramirez's autopsy. He shared that their examination found 4 separate.
Now, I need you guys to listen to this right here. Now, this right here, I'm questioning the self-defense argument because of this detail right here. But this is being swept under the rug, and no one is talking about this.
Separate stab wounds on Ramirez's body.
Hold on.
Ramirez's body. 4 separate stab wounds on Ramirez's body. The examiner said that the cause of death was stabbing with homicide as the matter of death. We learned there was 1 large stab wound across Ramirez's chest, which caused multiple injuries to both the heart itself and the left lung, as well as 2 stab wounds on his buttocks and a wound on his upper back and left forearm. Last up for the day was a friend of Allison who shared that he had heard from others that Allison had brought a knife to school that day, but was unsure if Allison had told him this personally. That friend will.
So let's listen to the details here. If you hear, there was numerous stab wounds. I think in one of the broadcast clips I have, literally, it seems like it was 2 in the front and 4 in the back, in the buttocks, in the back of the shoulder. This was a murder. This was a homicide. This was vicious. So we have to think of the mental state of the child, of the young person to do this. Also highlighting that Ramirez's brother is involved as well. Kind of markedly similar to what's going on with the other case, but it's just a little bit different now. Here we're finding out more details about what took place prior to all of it happening. So we're going to kind of get into some of the details because that's what we're missing in the other case. What took place before the stabbing? So in the Casey Allison case, you're going to hear a series of events that happened that should have been addressed by the school or the parents.
We'll be back next week to testify and probably talk about some evidence that was discussed today, consisting of 2 text message chains between Allison and the friend. Trial will not resume until Monday, April 21st. We'll be back for you then. Live in Belton, Sydney Walker, 6 News.
All right, we thank you.
Okay, so that's the opening of it, and the trial is starting. So what we're going to do is have a special on that particular trial to see how it's going. But we want to introduce this to you because they're sweeping it under the rug. This school violence thing is a systemic issue, and I believe it crossed color lines. It crossed color lines. Now, this is the student who witnessed the stabbing in Casey Allison case. And it says that one, and now you're going to hear it's contradicting witness statements because you'll hear some kids saying that, hey, Jose didn't want to fight. Casey Allison was already talking about murdering him. And then you hear some kids saying Jose was aggressive. His brothers was out there fighting and he liked to fight. They were recording kids fighting. Okay, this was something that has been going on. So if the students know about it, I would assume the adults know as well.
High students said about Kason Allison in court today.
The trial of the suspect accused of stabbing and killing Joe Ramirez resumed this morning in Bell County, bringing 4 new witnesses to the stand.
News 10's Madison Herber has been in court all day and joins us live now with more on what was uncovered. Madison.
Good evening, Lauren and Gordon. The witnesses included 2 people who were former students that were in the bathroom the day that fight broke out, Tito Chamel and Angel Murillo. Chamel explained to the court that he was a good friend of Joe Ramirez and was in the bathroom with Ramirez and Allison when chaos ensued, and he even caught a portion of that altercation on video, which was shared today with the jury. And there was also a Belton Police Department detective who revealed the crime scene photos from that day. And then there was also
another thing I just want to hit. I want to talk about, just hit this right here. When has it become normal for us to just record crimes? For us just to record someone's being assaulted, someone's being murdered. I mean, you've seen this really taking place in different situations, and that talks about the empathy level that we have. You know, the urgency level, straight connected back to that trumpet circuit, even in adults, where, you know, you remember they watched a lady get set on fire in the train in New York, recorded it. They recorded some lady getting R'd on the train. I forgot what state it was, recorded it. We watched an officer murder black man in the street for 8 minutes, recorded it. This is really talking about our empathy level. This is saying a lot about America, about us, how we're practicing like heathens. So they're recording this as well. They're recording it inside the bathroom. And I'm like, wow, like, how did they get a tape of this? Do they have bathroom cameras in the team's bathroom? No, the kids was recording it. Nobody really stopping it, but we're recording it. And this goes directly reflective of our moral compass. It's ridiculous. And we got to talk about it a little different here, because this is more than a racial issue. This is a systematic issue that our kids are emotionally distressed. They don't know how to handle conflict. We don't know how to handle them. And our school system is not teaching them emotional intelligence or no intelligence, in my opinion. I'm just keeping it real. So, yeah, let's go.
a friend of Allison's and an acquaintance of Ramirez, Raina Barber, she took the stand and explained to the court how she was trying to calm Ramirez down just moments before the fight broke out. Now, the photos from the crime scene followed a trail of blood droplets around part of the school, leading to a pool of blood where Ramirez collapsed. The detective explained that it was after getting photos of the scene, he talked to a witness who provided a statement and video of the fight that started in the bathroom. Video was replayed from yesterday showing the school hallway where you see the boys entering the bathroom and then leaving sometime later in a rush. And then the short video caught on Shamel's phone of what happened on the other side of the door was played. Shamel explaining that what he caught on video shows Ramirez taking the first swing at Allison, and then you see Allison pull out the knife before a loud scream is heard and the video cuts off. Barber said Allison didn't want to fight and just wanted to make it to graduation. And Shamel said in the moment, it didn't look like Allison wanted to fight. Barber also said that Ramirez and his friends were known to fight, and Shamel saying Ramirez liked having his fights recorded.
So these are the things, these are the rumors that's coming out. That's why I wanted to wait to even make any type of commentary on Karmelo Anthony's case, because it looks like this on the surface, but when you get down to the nitty gritty, it's probably everybody wrong in some type of way, or did something or did not do something to prevent the situation. So not only were they recording. So I'm just stopping here for 1 second, guys, because this is a flashback, and this is literally like a replica of what we heard come out in the Karmelo Anthony case, with the recording, with the bullying, the fighting amongst the teenagers, the history of uncontrolled behaviors happening in school. But let's just finish watch this. This is an excellent case to compare to the Karmelo Anthony case, noting that it just happened in the state of Texas, and the fact that the jury downgraded his charges to reckless homicide. Let's finish watching. Not only did now this is a statement from one of the witnesses there, and I'm going to tell you it's contradictory on witness statements, because they're trying to, in this statement is like they saying Casey Allison didn't want to fight. Jose was like basically known for fighting. They recorded. So if it's recordings of fights taking place at the school, you telling me the school not aware? You're telling me that the authorities not aware when they're constantly searching metaverse, they're constantly looking for things? Do you see what I'm saying? These things actually bubbled up. So more people have to take responsibility for this happening. Let's keep this going because I want to break down some of the key elements of these cases so you guys can kind of dive a little deeper and we don't just go assuming anything because you know how the news is. Pick a side, run with it. No. We're going to get everybody and highlight what's wrong so we can try to fix it. And what I'm seeing here is a systematic issue that took place in the school and they did not address this. Wait, it gets better because this gets better. I mean, worse, but better.
And that this fight was planned, but no one expected it to happen on school grounds. Barber said it wasn't normal for Allison to have a knife on him, but she knew he had one because Allison told her he got one for protection. An altercation was described by former students that an argument broke out at a prom after party, and it was likely that Ramirez and Allison verbally fought over a girl.
Do you hear it? Do you hear it? Started at a prom after party, fighting over a girl. Pretty typical teenager thing. No conflict resolution, but gets worse. What you hear here is allegedly a gun was involved.
Mel told the court that Ramirez looked surprised to see Allison in the bathroom that day, and you could feel the tension between the two. Barber is seen talking to Ramirez on the hallway security footage, visibly upset. She started to cry as she explained to the court that she was trying to tell Ramirez that the fight isn't worth it because they are about to graduate.
Kid play that turned tragic. So they're probably on day 10 at this point. So we're just trying to get some updates on what's going on with this case because the news is not highlighting it. Literally, it's 410 views on some of these videos that I'm showing you. And it's a direct compare and contrast to what we're watching today. And that's why we have a misinterpretation of what's going on with the Karmelo Anthony case, because if we pay attention to what's going on systemically in school, we'll look at it deeper than just a race issue. Our kids are sick. Our system is sick.
Testimony from 4 new witnesses and saw several pieces of new evidence in the Kaysen Allison trial. News 10's Isabella Quintanilla joins us now live outside of the Bell County Justice Complex with more from day 5 of the trial. Isabella?
Yes, that's right, Lauren. Today, we heard from Chris Biddle, who was Allison's friend and was in the bathroom the day of the stabbing. We also heard from Joe Ramirez's ex-girlfriend and 2 investigators on the case. Now, things started off with testimony from Biddle, first looking at text messages between him and Allison in the days leading up to the stabbing. Now, from previous testimony, we do know that there was a heated argument between Allison and Ramirez at a prom after party. And in those text messages, Allison did send a text to Biddle after that party saying, quote, "Bro, bring me a gun." He also recalled what happened that day, explaining that while there was a plan to fight, they did not plan to fight in school and were surprised to see Ramirez and his friends in the bathroom. Biddle says they tried to leave after using the restroom, but that Ramirez and his 4 friends wouldn't let them. That's when, according to Biddle, Ramirez punched Allison, and when Biddle tried to step in, he was hit by Josh Rios, which was shown in the phone video of the fight that was replayed for the jury.
So they all was in there fighting. They all was in there fighting, and unfortunately, Kaysen was the one that landed the fatal blow. Pulled out a because I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna have to get old school with y'all. These kids don't know how to fight. They don't know how to defend themselves. And me as a mother, that was one of the things that I definitely made sure that my son knew how to do. He has 2nd degree black belt. Because I know that these people are scary and they don't know how to fight. So that right there increased the fear factor, increased the chances of them going to get a knife or a gun because it's easily accessible. But at the end of the day, you as a parent see what's going on with your kid. I don't want to hear that these parents did not see or hear something escalated. I can always tell when my kid got issues, teenager come in there, face all twisted up. You're like, what's wrong? You know, if you have open lines of communication with your kids, you'll be able to identify when things are happening or when they're about to pop off. We're supposed to be the savior of these kids. So these kids now have to take responsibility in the court of the law. But the issue is the parents. And I'm being real, because I have been in the middle of a lot of nonsense, because my teenager, I got a 21-year-old now and my daughter about to be 20, but we went through it. And every time something happened, I could walk right in the room and be like, what is going on with you, girl? You're yelling at the phone. What's wrong with your boy? You know, so this went overlooked from the parents because it's been bubbling for days. Not a race issue. But at the end of the day, the reason why we're bringing this up, because Mr. Kaysen is Caucasian. And some of the things that he did in this makes it hard for me to feel like it's self-defense. This is literally a school brawl that went wrong.
We then heard from Madison Barnes, Ramirez's ex-girlfriend and a close friend of Allison's. During her testimony, she says that Allison made threats against Ramirez to her before the stabbing, sharing that he told her that he, quote, wanted Joe on life support, wanted to stomp his head in, wanted his jaw dangling from his face, and wanted him in the hospital, end quote.
Valence. I do apologize for the violent talk this morning, but you need to hear both sides. First, it was Jose. It was him talking about, yeah, they like to fight all the time, record things. And as more things come out and the truth come out, then you have Allison like, hey, I want him gone. I want him viciously there. I want to do this. So it was coming from both sides, where the argument of self-defense, I believe, is definitely thrown out the window. And this is the fault of our system. No way that they did not know that this was happening, but the administration probably was like, let me just mind my business. We get into graduation, get these damn kids out of here, and look what happened. This was towards
the jury was then
this was prime time. They almost made it to graduate.
Asked to leave before Robert Preston, one of the investigators on the case, was called to the stand. Preston shared he got a search warrant for Allison's Snapchat. Defense and prosecution went back and forth for a while on the authenticity of a voice message that had been submitted as evidence, which Judge Faulkner accepted after leaving to review it. When the jury returned, they played the recording, which was Allison explaining everything to an unknown person. In the video, Allison says that Ramirez and his friends pulled out a gun at the party after they had gotten into an argument. He goes on.
You see me? I'm a mama here reacting like, oh, imagine if these were your kids. That's why I said, let's not get caught up in the race relations and all this nonsense. This is scary for me as a parent, even with a 21-year-old, to see the level of intensity that this went. Guns pulled out for arguments over girls. When you like, listen, this is literally a short time in your life. There are millions of girls out there. All we needed was a logical conversation to happen. They saw this occurring, and us as adults had our trumpet circuit bypassed and just did this or did this. Mind our damn business. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. Let's just get the last minute of this story, and then we're going to move on into getting a little bit details of Karmelo Anthony story. Okay. And I'll tell you how I'm going to come at that, because it's really hard to find unbiased information about that case. It's really annoying, for real.
On to say they later texted him and were talking about jumping him, with Allison then saying, quote, we finna catch them tomorrow. He ended the recording by saying, quote, I'm going to send him to the hospital.
Now,
quote,
listen, this is Allison. They got the text of him saying, I'm going to send him to the hospital. We're going to get him. Let me get a gun. Self-defense case is out. Y'all parents need to talk to y'all kids. Running that mouth too, get him in a whole lot of trouble. And that's the same thing with Karmelo. Some of the things that he said made it controversial. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you touch me, you're gonna see what happened. But we're gonna talk about that. And it's so crazy that we're hearing more things coming out. So again, we've been talking about the legal aspect, where they're at, but then we have to think of the stem of the issue, where our kids' mind are at, honestly, and how our school system is handling this, because this is pretty much like a pandemic. And that's why we have other cases to compare to Karmelo Anthony. And we know, compared to those at least, or the ones that we can continue to show you, he was excessively sentenced. But this is still an underlying issue that's going on that we have to address.
Gonna catch them tomorrow. He ended the recording by saying, quote, "I'm gonna send him to the hospital." Finally, we heard from Detective Robert Gatewood, who was one of the officers that went to Allison's house that day after they had gotten a call about a possible suspect. When they arrived, Allison's mom led them inside to the bathroom where Allison was heard by officers talking to someone on the phone saying, quote, "I did something at school," and asking them to come and take him to Waco. This audio recording was played to the jury, who also saw photos from inside the house, including a picture of Allison's white Air Forces that were splattered in blood. When he left the bathroom, Allison was then taken into custody, cooperating with officers and telling them, quote, "I was just trying to protect myself." During his interview, Detective Gatewood says Allison described the knife used on Ramirez to detectives, telling them where to find it after he had thrown it onto the side of the road from his car.
Wow.
Now, again, court will...
So do you hear this? This young man left the school, threw the weapon out, went back in the school bathroom. Whatever way you look at it, he tried to flee. Is this not similar to the Carmelo Anthony case? Confused because it's like, okay, this happened in the bathroom, and they said they arrested him coming out of the bathroom. He made a phone call. That is traumatizing. Imagine you're a kid calling you like, "Mom, Dad, I did something. I'm about to go to jail." So heart-wrenching. I'm a little confused about when the arrest took place because they said the knife was thrown out of a car. But at the end of the day, he is arrested. He was released, and now he's going through trial. So we're going to be paying attention to this. The trial is not live, so I have to get the day-to-day update. And I'm going to say shout out to KW Texas News 10 because they've been keeping up with this. This literally had 470 views. I thought my channel was suppressed. For real, I don't take no more offense because they pick and choose what they want to push through the algorithm. This is ridiculous. So there's a lot of factors that we highlighted in this particular case. That one is it makes it way out the realm of race. Two, there's a lot of things that we could have did as adults to address this. There were plenty of situations I think prior to this that it could have been addressed at home, at the prom. It's been bubbling up for a while. Also to the fact that Mr. Jose allegedly was recording fights prior to this. So it was on social media. The cops should have been involved. Family should have been aware as well. Defense scrutinized Casey Allison health during police interview in 7-day murder trial. Now, I don't know what they're trying to say, but let me just put this up there because, we're going to be following this legally once we're able to get more details to see if he actually has a self-defense case, in which I don't believe so. And it's sad. He's a baby.
Case today in the murder trial of Kason Allison. Allison is accused of stabbing classmate Joe Ramirez nearly 3 years ago. 6 News reporter Sydney Walker is back in the courtroom. So, Sydney, what happened today?
Today was the longest day of the trial thus far. Detective Gene Cole, who was the primary detective on the investigation into the stabbing at Belton High, was on the stand for almost 5 hours, and that's just today. This isn't including his testimony from yesterday as well. After the state rested its case, the defense called 3 witnesses in the last hour of today. The full over an hour-long video of detectives' initial questioning of Allison was shown to the jury today. The video shows Allison lying his head down on the desk and eventually lying on the ground and vomiting in a trash can. In the video, Allison revealed that he took the knife from his stepdad's closet that morning out of fear of being jumped by Ramirez, and also that before Ramirez had punched him, he had pulled the knife out and told Ramirez, quote, "Don't touch me or I'm going to stab you." What followed was a long...
Does this sound familiar, guys?
period of pushback from the defense regarding the overall investigation. They asked why Allison was questioned even though he was visibly ill, why Allison was not Mirandized in a more serious matter, and why Cole did not view security footage previously. They also asked once again why phones were not collected at the scene before the lockdown was...
Now, this is where the administrative issue is going to be coming in and the investigative issues. You see all the things that the police did not do. That boy wasn't sick. That boy realized that he was going to jail and possibly hell. He got sick in the middle, like, but there are proceedings that the police are supposed to do. One, memorize them. You know I'm saying that word. My tongue get heavy, y'all. Heavy. Also, his parents should have been there. I have seen where they did interrogation with the parents right there. And then sometimes I watched this good interrogation. It wasn't good. I felt bad for the mom. Her son had gotten
Full fracture and also confirmed his diagnosis of a closed head injury.
Oh my God.
Next was a close friend of Allison who was supposed to fight alongside Allison in the planned fight off campus. He said that that fight was supposed to occur around 5 p.m. that day and take place in a 3-on-3 format. Last up was a teacher and coach from Belton High who helped stop Ramirez's brother from chasing Allison down the hallway.
Do you hear the series of events? How was Allison and Ramirez and his brother still in school? You just heard that. Oh my God. And Austin and Hunter Metcalf being troublemakers, still being able to be in school, participate in things. You see the similarity? Then you hear Allison. It's so many bad factors in this that makes it bad for both sides. Allison had a head injury, a concussion. You know, probably that CTA thing, undiagnosed. When you have CTA, that's when you had those football players out there murdering their wives, doing. Let's get to now comparing it to the beginning of the Carmelo Anthony. Or matter of fact, what we're going to do is get to talk about the Rodney Hinton case, because I think we talked a lot about the Carmelo Anthony case, and we put Hunter's interview, and that's what I had. So let's see, can we fast forward to this last part? I want to say thank you so much for being with us. I think this is where I may be getting to. Oh, look at this, guys. While we're here, look who's here. Jake Lang. And I wish I had the clip. I just wanted to. This is Jake Lang out there causing mayhem at the beginning of the Carmelo Anthony case. And I told you guys that he was planning on going out there at the not at the verdict, but for the motion hearing. So I was praying that he didn't. And he has been going around the United States basically causing trouble, getting locked up in several states, which doesn't make sense because he will make bail and go to another state and do the same thing. So that's why I say this judicial system is severely flawed. But most recently, he got beat up, and I don't promote violence, but he got beat up out there by Spider-Man. So guys, go check it out. It is viral right now. Jake Lang, the antagonizer, race. He's not even a race beta. He's literally just KKK without the cloak. Okay, and he's working for all sides to intimidate and to cause trouble. So go check that out, y'all. Now let's see, can we get into the Rodney hit? It was just so funny. I had Jake Lang. I've been keeping my eye on this guy, but you try not to give, certain people attention. So let's play this. Let's see if this is for Mr. Metcalf for being a little suspect, but then y'all know in Dalton, Illinois, in no school in the area that them kids been fighting. Okay, here we go. Getting away with it. How disgusting. Where he cannot find it. So we have to be responsible as adults to see where he cannot find it. Okay. So we have to be responsible as adults to see where our kids are at emotionally. And I do believe that my son has emotional intelligence by being a second-degree black belt, and I still took it from him. And I mentioned this to you guys about the knife on several lives, about, I give y'all personal stories because I think people could relate to it. But my young adult at one point, when he was younger and had a flip knife, I felt like he wasn't mature enough for it, and I took it away. So I do want to highlight that because I made a comment last night, and I kind of said maybe possibly You know, the Anthony parents are a little oblivious, and I didn't want to disrespect them in a tragic moment, but we have to be for real. We have to be for real as parents, co-parents, a village that raised kids together. We have to be aware of these things and have discernment. So I just wanted to put that out there. I know I was listening. I was like, that was a little distasteful. I didn't want y'all to think that I'm against anybody, but coming from the tribe of Levi, and I'm just gonna be real, we're very straight. If it's wrong, it's wrong. It's right, it's right. That doesn't mean we don't love you, but we are that onion. Okay, it may be strong, got a lot of layers, but it's good for you. Hit the like button. We about to wrap this up real quick, but I wanted to show you this because I made a post earlier last week towards the end of the week talking saying that I wanted to do a little case review, and I wasn't able to do that because we cooked so much last night, and we still have a lot more questions and things that I want to address about the appeal. But I just wanted to play the last part of last night's because I thought that was important. How I believe the defense will move forward with the actual appeal, and then the habeas corpus that really wasn't talked about a lot. So now we're showing you how similar the Casey Allison case was to the Karmelo case, and how you see that Casey Allison got reckless manslaughter, I believe, if I'm saying it correctly. But and that was left him with 8 months to serve. And obviously, you hear the details. It was pretty brutal. There was a lot of elements that was similar to the Carmelo Anthony case as far as character on both sides. But as what we saw, based on the reason why they wanted a new trial and why they're going for appeal, there was a lot of administrative errors. So that's why that was highlighted. So let's finish this live off by addressing Mr. Rottenhouse's statement. You see what I'm saying? I'm not no damn fool. So again, talk about young people having guns. This is the last thing that we're going to show you. Mr. Stinky Rottenhouse. I can't stand this little white supremacist little boy, and I made him a local celebrity. The young boy who killed people at the protest, that one was not supposed to have the gun, wasn't legally supposed to have the gun. Two, went to the protest to be anti against the protesters, and then end up killing protesters and getting away with it. How disgusting. If you watch this case, him and the judge were hugged up, all types of shit. This boy right now, Kyle Rittenhouse, now full-time gun shop owned employee. He's a gun shop employee as of February 11, 2025 in Florida. He has went to the congressional floor, to the Capitol, to speak on behalf of right to carry. What? What? Do y'all not see we're living in a sick society? So with that goes to say to the people who feels like the black community is basically supporting the murder, listen to how they treated Kyle Rittenhouse. Okay? So please stop being a hypocrite. We want a just system so we won't have to say justice or just us. Y'all have a good night. Thank you for joining Miss Grace Levi. We'll see you next weekend on our deep dive.
I could not be here breathing and be comfortable if I was really as bad as they was making it. You know, nobody could be around me. So for me to be this calm, I must have some kind of inner peace. And my inner peace is knowing that once everybody take the time to really see what type of person I am, you'd be surprised that I stuck around this long.
I have to make the life that I do live as happy as I can and try to do the best with what I have. You know, live the best life I can live, be as happy as I can be. Nothing is perfect for anybody. I don't.
Boys, I swear, I think I figured it out. You know why they don't want us redneck brothers and sisters and the hood brothers and sisters getting along? You know why? Because we'd be unstoppable. I'm telling you right now, we would shut shit down.
Chill, Yeshaya. Rawak Wadash. Shema, Yasharala, Ahaya. Alahaya Nawa, Ahaya, Akar.
The other night I cried for the 12 tribes. We've been through a lot. They still taking our lives. What we gon' do? Who is gonna save us? I think I got a clue. Yeshaya the savior. Here they come with the guillotine. We bout to bounce up out of here like a trampoline. To the wilderness we bout to flee, cause we ain't never get no love, call it Billy Jean. Judah in the window, but you know we got 11 more kinfolk. Family matters like the Winslows. To the east, that's the only way the wind blows. How you got me on my tiptoes? Boy, you know I'm trying to get chose. I'm trying to be perfect, trying to make it in before the door close. Gotta get right now.
Jesus,